Welcome everybody here, Brady from BGWX back here with another upload. No live stream with this video tonight, but we will probably be doing that going forward. So we do have another system to track here. We have snow coming up here, likely for the Northeast here on Wednesday, and then maybe another system down the road. So keep an eye out for the live streams for all the new subscribers that came on for the last storm, and maybe from Gerald's stream. I appreciate everybody that came on, and Gerald and I may be collabing at some point again this winter, so keep an eye on the down the road for that when things fast pace a little bit. But without further ado, let's get started here. And so Tuesday, first of all, what we have coming here again, we start with 500 millibar vorticity, right? That is, again, we look at higher up in the atmosphere. Imagine if I draw a vertical column of the atmosphere is how I like to start it. Imagine this is the top of the atmosphere. This is the surface where we reside, or at least most of us. And 500 millibars, again, upper levels of the atmosphere. That's where we're looking at currently right now. So way up in the atmosphere, looking at how strong the spin is. It is just very useful to be able to track systems and especially in the winter time, very helpful to use 500 vort to tell you to hear the upper level energy, basically to simplify it. And it's very useful for being able to track what's going on here. And so what we have here is this system that spins up over Canada. I'll draw that for you, and this kind of sets the stage for what happens. So as this moves through, this is actually going to be a very strong low pressure system, and so it's going to be pretty windy on Tuesday actually as well, and that could present a snow squall threat too for the Northeast. Um, Here on Tuesday, as this system will start moving through. You can play the frames, you can see this system kind of moves through, so there could be a little bit of a snow squall threat, maybe more focused over New York and more central New England potentially, but there could be a snow squall threat there on Tuesday to keep an eye on. But Wednesday is the day I'm watching. I'll zoom out just a little bit here to get a little bit more of the bigger picture, and we'll actually zoom all the way out just for a second here, get the bigger picture. What you have here with this system is you have this northern branch of upper level energy here, right? We're talking about at 500. You have this northern branch of upper level energy, and this is going to dive all the way down here over this big western ridge that we have, this high pressure system. And we're going to see this upper level energy dive down, a very elongated piece of upper level energy. But what you have here is this system out in front, and you can see this will work as a confluence piece, and it's basically going to work as our high pressure, so that it's not going to allow this, this is a real elongated piece, a stretched out piece of upper level energy here, so it's not going to be able to ramp up and cut. And also, if it tried to, this confluence here would prevent that. And so it's going to be unable to amplify too much, and we're going to see as it gets closer here, you can see that start to maybe pull in maybe just a little bit of moisture. That's something I'm still keeping an eye on here. That's one of the only wild cards, given we're still about 4-ish days out maybe, is that this cutoff low here, you can see also some moisture off the Gulf of Mexico, even sliding over from the Pacific. Do we pull a little bit more into here? This could maybe enhance totals just a little bit more than maybe what some models are picking up on. That would maybe amplify the system a little bit. Keep an eye on here, because this is going to be a strengthening. We can zoom in now again. This is a strengthening low pressure system as it moves through our area. All right, we have this big cutoff low, and that's the next system that we're going to be probably tracking at some point later this week, that could be turning into a big winter storm down the line. But there's too many unknown details with that at the moment. But for now, this system here moves through, and it's again elongated, stretched out piece of upper level energy. So you'll see it amplify those some here, right? You see it 500, you can see that strengthen just a little bit offshore, and then it gets into the Atlantic, it starts wrapping up more the upper level energy. You'll see a strengthening low pressure system offshore move. And as this moves through, though, it is going to have some precipitation with it, maybe possibly get enhanced off the Atlantic a little bit as well as it moves into New England. So that will be something to keep an eye on as it gets closer, to the Atlantic. And so this slides off here, and with that, and we can show you the P-type map. Just so you can get an idea, kind of this low pressure system, right, moves through, and along it and just to the north is where you're going to see the potential for it's a clipper system, but it could be a pretty decent a pretty decent system still, where I think there's an opportunity here for 2 to 5, 3 to 6 plus inches of snow for a widespread area here. And this is kind of the area I'm watching at this point. I'd say basically north of New City, I would say, is kind of where I'm watching, for the likelihood for this system to be maybe some light snow and flurries down, across central eastern PA into Jersey. Northern Jersey could get some as well. New York City could maybe get some light snow and flurries, but for the most part, I'm going to focus here on southern New England, pretty much most of New England here, not just southern and central New England, but upstate New York and northern PA, I think, is where the focus, and northeastern PA as well, included in pretty much all of northern Pennsylvania. I think this is the focus for this event. There's a potential, if you were to enhance some of the use, if you were to enhance some of the moisture profile, if you were to pull in a little bit of this, you would also have to strengthen your though. Otherwise, this would go focus. And it wouldn't necessarily be rain. It's just the focus of the upper level energy would track farther north here, right? Since this isn't a full out winter storm, it's not a case where if the track pulls too far north, you're rain here. It's west to east, elongated, stretched out. We're not wrapping in a ton of moisture. This is upper level driven here in terms of the strength of the upper level energy we're dealing with here. And because of that, and along with how cold it will be, you can see temperatures. I will show you. Take a look here at 850s. Look at our 850 temperatures. We are very cold. So we're Celsius, and you can see that. I mean, there's a lot. We'll zoom in for you here so you can get a little bit better idea. We'll zoom into the northeast and get an idea here at 850 during the duration of this event here in the GFS work, especially how cold we are out ahead of this system. Again, we're looking at Celsius, and plenty cold enough too here at 850. I mean, minus minus 5 to minus 15 degrees even at 850 for many people here at 8 again at 850 millibars, so a little bit lower in the atmosphere now. And again, we look at from that minus 20 to minus 10 line for dendritic growth zone. Keep an eye, maybe at some point we had a lot of interest in, so maybe a video breaking down the dendritic growth zone and the importance of that for future reference. But when I look at this system, I think it is a pretty juiced upper level energy to work with. And if there is some enhanced Atlantic, especially in New England, that could allow for maybe some isolated higher totals than the general 2 to 5, 3 to 6. But for the moment, I think that's a good idea of what to expect from the system. You can see the Euro, I think these are the two models representing this right now. That general idea, same idea, Euro from OZ to 18Z, again, slightly different. We'll see it is a little bit more reserved, this energy. If this does hold back a little bit more, then this could allow for this to amplify and tilt precipitation a little bit further northward. So we'll keep an eye on that. If this is elongated, more stretched out, or if the confluence from this system is stronger, this will track further south, and that's your opportunity in New York City to maybe get a little bit more. But I don't really see New York City being able to get into the brunt of this system. It's a little bit different here. The train tracks are kind of showing themselves. The steering, our system, our confluence piece is already going to come down out ahead of this, and so we'll be able to get pretty good sampling and modeling idea on this system. There's not going to be too many massive questions with this, other than maybe some ocean enhancement in how well saturated will be for how much precip as well. But those are always questions you get, and this storm tracks in behind. So that's really, it's a simple setup here. It's not too complicated. Elongated energy comes in behind our confluence piece very cold air out ahead in place already, as we noticed, and this slides through here and drops down maybe 2 to 5, general 3 to 6, and again with the focus on uh, New York and New England here being the focus. So looking at New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, a more focus on northern Connecticut and northern Rhode Island, I would say at the moment, um, and New Hampshire, Vermont, and including probably south. Probably probably not northern Maine, at least for now. I wouldn't quite favor, but it's possible. But much of Maine as well, and especially southern Maine, central Maine, of course, and down east Maine. Definitely favored with this system. Not many people refer to Maine as central Maine, but I guess you could from the central part of the state southward. So that's kind of the idea with this system. And then there's another system we're keeping an eye on down the road here. As we mentioned, I've been following, been saying, whenever this cutoff low gets injected to the stream, this is what's interesting. I really, again, I'm not sold on this pattern being as warm. The moderation, there's going to be some moderation to the pattern here. What happens? So places like the mid-Atlantic, this might affect more, and it'll maybe allow for, maybe more significantly warmer temperatures at some point during this period than we've seen. For especially the south and southeast, I would say snow chances will definitely be pretty limited over the next maybe 7 to 10 days at least, in the southeast. But and maybe next 1 to 2 weeks really for the southeast, and maybe a good portion of the mid-Atlantic as well, especially somewhere like Virginia. But notice this bowling ball of an upper level low that gets thrown down into the that is already thrown down into the flow here. And this thing is going to stall and just get separated. You can see how northern stream dominant we are, and this ridge is really pressing here. So all of our upper level energy is sliding around over. Meanwhile, this little this big old, not little, big old upper level low has slid down beneath this ridge and is just disconnected from the flow like a hurricane stalling in the tropics almost. And it's separated from the flow. The steering currents kind of basically collapse and allows this thing to kind of sit and stall, and eventually this thing gets injected into the flow later this week, around later in the week, and we'll see this thing kind of push its way north, and then you'll see it kind of slide out east somewhere. That's the kind of idea. Maybe some sort of transfer system. You can see the euro. I would highly doubt we would see something like this where we would get so connected in the flow and elongated. Always get kind of questionable when you start seeing models kind of latch on, and you can do some. It's still pretty far out notice, so it's a little too early to say specifics, and I do think it's really muddy right now as we enter February. We can notice here a little bit stronger confluence on something like the GFS and the Euro AI, showing that as well. For example, you can see that here. GFS and Euro AI actually surprisingly similar for how far out they are, and the Euro Ensemble Suite, I think, was a little bit more. We'll have to look at the Euro Ensembles, on stream at some point this week, but we don't need to go too far into specifics just for the general details. But this system right here, man, that's a strong upper level energy to work with here. Potentially gets pretty elongated and stretched out, so that we'll have to keep an eye on the specifics right now, exactly how strong, how amplified, how well organized the system is, will definitely play a factor in terms of track here. But we'll keep an eye on. We'll see, right, all of these northern branch dominated streams here of upper level energy. You can see sliding through that clipper that ends up sliding through, and again, very elongated, a lot of upper level energy, northern stream dominated. Kind of sets in place a confluence potentially down the line. And if this is way to the north, then this is going to the system will be able to come and track far to the north. If this system is pressing more, then this maybe allows the mid-Atlantic potentially to get involved maybe a little bit more, rather than the Northeast. At the moment, I would favor the Northeast New England for this system. I think some of it we saw was overblown. Again, just kind of the pattern we've had has not allowed for systems to be able to trek so far north. The cold has been pressing pretty significantly throughout this pattern so far. And again, we will see some moderation, and we're going to see a little bit of a change in this pattern, but not to the extent I think that you know, I don't think we're going to change up the tune completely here, and just all of a sudden, quote unquote, torch for a couple weeks, so to say, especially in the Northeast. With the focus there, it's all, I think the system favors Northeast New England. I'm still very hesitant. And yes, the Midwest would be able to get potentially into this system as well, but Northeast New England would have, um, I think, a little bit more favorable in terms of positioning of cold air in place for longer, especially if it were to be, a CAD-like setup here where your cold air is able to sit in and hold longer and prevent some sort of mixing. This does scream some sort of ice mixing event as well down the line here, and the timing for this is this weekend at some point. GFS does eject it a little bit sooner into the stream. Euro holds it back a little bit more, so I'll be curious to see kind of what we do. The Euro does tend to hold sometimes this upper level energy back a little bit too much, but you can see Euro over the last couple of runs getting a little bit more progressive, injecting that into the flow a little bit sooner. And again, just doesn't have the same positioning of the confluence as the GFS in the Euro AI do, for example, here. You can see GFS does inject it, and the Euro AI does inject it and into the flow a little bit sooner as well. So a little bit of a model disagreement in terms of specifics. Now you are going to have a southeast ridge present, so we all have access from the Gulf of Mexico to drive moisture up, a strong upper level energy that will come north and then slide out. Question: how soon is it going to be able to get further east before it drives north? It does drive north. Where does that happen? And that will define whether or not a mixing line would be here or even further. Who knows? Still so far down the line, so specifics TBD with that, and I think it's very muddy, especially beyond. And then after that, we do, I think, we do worry about maybe a little bit warmer. We'll see where the ridging gets, but I will preface this by saying any moderation in the pattern, I believe, will be very brief here. And I do think we're going to get back to an opportunity with a focus on potentially the Northeast and New England and maybe northern mid-Atlantic as well, potentially as we get to February, as in not only maybe north, maybe a good amount of the mid-Atlantic potentially as well, not just northern mid-Atlantic, but I'll say but a little bit more focus on the Northeast New England potentially to be able to have a favorable snowier and colder February, especially once we get to that second week of February, maybe second, third, and fourth weeks of February. I think could be somewhat favorable for a snowy and colder pattern to set up yet again. And even this wouldn't be too bad of some storm tracks potentially this week based on what we got. So that's a little breakdown of what we have going on right now. Appreciate all of you guys tuning in, and look for us to go live this week. I'll see you later. Peace.